Moodle Question Bank, in conjunction with Moodle Quizzes, is one of the best features that I think Moodle offers. Before we begin, let me point out that this question bank is for Moodle Quizzes only. The Moodle lesson activity uses a separate question bank that's accessible only from within that activity. This course uses the Boost theme, so your course may look a little bit different. To access the Moodle question bank, click on the gear icon in the upper right-hand corner. From the drop-down menu, click More at the bottom. Have a look at the Question Bank section at the bottom of the Administration section. The Questions link is where you'll actually create questions for your question bank. The Categories section is where you'll create the categories to put those questions. And you also have the ability to import or export the question bank in a variety of formats for use in other Moodle sites. A great method for this is by using the Respondus 4.0 software, which we'll discuss in a separate video. Let's first look at the question categories. Click the Categories link. Now, the biggest mistake that new Moodle users make is not setting up their categories first before they start adding questions to the question bank. As you can see, there are three main categories: the course category, the category category, and the system category. Where you place your questions determines where they can be used. For example, if you create questions in the course category, then those questions can be used in any quiz as long as it appears within that same course. But any other course in your site will be unable to see those questions or to use them. Likewise, if you place your questions within this category section, then any course that's inside the miscellaneous category will also be able to make use of these questions in a quiz. However, if the course appears outside of the miscellaneous category, those quizzes will be unable to make use of the questions. Finally, the system category allows any questions in this category to be used anywhere inside your Moodle system. Now, at first glance, it might seem like a really good idea to put all your questions at the system level. However, depending on the number of quizzes that you've got in your site, this could rapidly make this category unmanageable. A better suggestion would be to first try and imagine in which courses your quiz questions could be applicable. By default, your quiz questions should probably stay at the course level, but if you can easily think of more than one course instance in which these questions could be used, then it's best to place them at the category level. In general, there are a limited number of circumstances in which I can imagine wanting to place quiz questions at the site level. Within each category, you can also create subcategories, and I strongly recommend that you do this before you begin creating quiz questions. If your question bank is nice and organized, then it becomes very easy to edit questions and to add questions to a variety of quizzes. Novice Moodle users will add all their questions to the default subcategory, and after a very short period of time will have a list of 100 questions in which they'll be unable to find anything easily. So here's how to make subcategories. Scroll down to the Add Category section. The parent category is exactly what it sounds like. Under which top-level category will your subcategory be nested? Next, give your subcategory a name. I recommend naming it identically to whatever quiz the questions within it will appear. You can provide additional information about the category if necessary, and you can also provide an ID number, but neither of these are required. Click the Add Category button at the bottom of the page. You can see now that I've created a subcategory called Chapter 1 Quiz that's nested under the course category and is at the same level as the default subcategory. Note the 0 in parentheses next to each category. That indicates how many questions currently exist inside that subcategory. I recommend setting up your subcategory structure completely at first, and only once you're finished should you go back and begin to add questions. You can continue to add subcategories by repeating the process above. For the purposes of this overview, we're going to assume that this course will only have one quiz. It's now time to start adding questions to the question bank. Click on the Questions tab. We start by choosing a subcategory in which our questions will reside. Click the Create a New Question button at the bottom of the page. A pop-up menu will appear with all the different question types that are available. As you can see, Moodle comes with a wide variety of question types, and more can be added by using the plugins from the Moodle plugins directory. For this demonstration, we will go ahead and create a multiple choice question. Here again, you have the option of choosing where to categorize your question. Next, you'll need to give it a question name. This question name is not visible to your students, and it should not be the question itself. It should be a short reminder of what the question is about, and it could contain the question answer. A mistake that new users often make is to name the questions question 1, question 2, question 3, etc. When you do that, you don't know the subject of the question, and if your quizzes are randomized and a student says that there's an error in the question about triangles, you won't remember which question that is, and you'll have to open up each one of them or preview them in order to be able to make the correction. The question text box is where you'll add the actual question itself. 99% of all Moodle quizzes are created using text-only questions, but the hallmark of a good quiz creator is that they will include media as well. As you can see from the editor, your quiz questions can have images, audio, video, charts, graphs. You can even use questions that have been formatted using HTML. The only thing in the editor that I don't recommend using when you're creating quiz questions is the hyperlink feature. You don't want to take users away from your quiz if you can help it. The default points section is exactly what it sounds like. How many points will this question be worth? Difficult questions could be worth more points than simple questions. Questions involving solving equations might be worth more than a true-false question, for example. Once you add this question to a quiz, however, you do have the option of being able to change that number for that specific quiz. You can skip the ID number block. For multiple choice questions, you have the option of allowing only one right answer or multiple right answers. By default, all the choices in a multiple choice question will be shuffled randomly every time a user sees this question. This option can be overridden by the quiz settings, however. A new Moodle user will often make the mistake of having a choice D, all of the above, but then leaving the shuffle choices block checked. The risk here is that the choice of all of the above will appear as choice A, which doesn't make any sense within the question. A better strategy would be to change the wording so that it says all of these choices are correct. That way, it can appear in any order, and it will still make sense to the user. Now we can begin to add our choices. Each answer will go in the first line of the box. Under that, you will see the grade drop-down box. If this multiple choice question has only one correct answer, then the correct answer should have 100% selected in this box. If this particular multiple choice question has 3 correct answers, then you should select 33 1/3% from each drop-down menu for each correct choice. Experienced Moodle users will save a lot of time when creating quiz questions by always making the correct answer choice A. That way, they don't have to ever change any of the scoring drop-down menus, but they know that because the randomize box is checked, the correct answer will actually appear anywhere in the list of choices. The feedback box is one of the most neglected features of a Moodle quiz question. The feedback box for each choice can be used to tell the individual not only that it's the incorrect choice, but also where they can go to get the correct answer. For incorrect choices, I don't recommend telling the user what the correct answer is. Instead, I recommend that the users be pointed to a resource in which they can find the correct answer on their own. This will enhance their learning by forcing them to go back and search for the correct answer. And, of course, the feedback box, like all the other boxes, has an editor so that you can include images, video, audio, and anything else that you require. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video while I fill in the choices for this question. Now, if the specific feedback for each possible choice is too much for you or it does not meet your needs, the other option is the combined feedback boxes. With combined feedback, you can save time by providing the same general help no matter which wrong answer the user selects. Here again, however, I do recommend that you don't provide the correct answer for the user. Rather, I feel that you should point the user in the direction of the correct answer. The best way to finish this discussion of feedback is to show you how it's used within the quiz. Each quiz has a series of review options that you can set when you're first creating the quiz. Checking the blocks determines when the user sees the type of feedback that you've created for each of the questions. Time frames include during the attempt, which is while the user is in the process of taking the quiz. This only applies if you've configured your quiz to show a submit button after each question, rather than one submit button at the end of the whole quiz. Another time frame is immediately after the attempt, which is usually up to 5 minutes after the student has clicked the final submit button. Later, while the quiz is still open, applies if you set a time limit or a deadline for the quiz after which students can no longer complete it. And then, after the quiz closes, is when the deadline has passed. Specific feedback denotes the feedback that you put down for each question-answer choice. General feedback, you'll remember, is for any right or wrong answer, and overall feedback is something that you will set in the quiz settings, and it's shown to the user after they click the final submit button, and it's based on their grade. For example, if you set up a grade boundary of 100 to 95%, and then you choose feedback specifically for that grade boundary, any user that gets a grade that falls between those two numbers will receive that specific feedback. You can set a second grade boundary for 94% to 90%, for example, and any user who receives a grade within that range would receive different feedback. Let's return to the question bank and finish up. Moodle quizzes can also be used for practice purposes. For example, a user could be given a multiple-choice question in which there are 4 possible choices. The user would select an answer, and if the answer were incorrect, the user could be given a second try. However, a small penalty could be assessed so that the user could not get the full score for that particular question. This allows them to continue to try to answer the question to gain some points, while still ensuring that those students who correctly answered the question the first time receive full marks. Finally, tags are a wonderful new feature for the Moodle Learning Management System. Each question can be given a series of tags so that you can easily locate it in the question bank. For a math question, for example, the question could be tagged with the type of math, such as geometry or algebra, the degree of difficulty of the question, or any other tag that you find appropriate. Tags can be selected from a list set up at the site level, which is done in order to save time and to standardize the tags. Or, tags unique to that specific question can be typed in as needed. Once you've entered your feedback and your tags, create the question. Now you can see your first question in the question bank. The icon here denotes the type of question that this is. This drop-down menu allows me to edit the question, and among these options are to preview it, delete it, or duplicate it. In particular, duplicating a question is very useful because it saves me a great deal of data entry time, when each question may vary only slightly from the others. And that's it for the overview of the Moodle question bank. I encourage you to experiment with the different question types so that you know the capabilities of each and the overall experience that you can provide to your users. I think you're going to find this to be a particularly valuable pedagogical resource in your course design.